If we decide that a life insurance retirement plan or a cash value life insurance policy, Dave, is part of our retirement plan, what should we be looking for? You've got some things outlined in your book, and you've got some kind of top four general ideas: safe and productive growth, low fees, tax-free and cost-free distributions, and a cost-free long-term care rider. So do you mind taking each one of those one at a time?
Sure. Safe and productive growth. There's a lot of different types of LIRPs. We're going to talk about, I think, three of those today, and sort of get into why there's one that I think accomplishes our goals a lot better than the other two. We've all heard of whole life. I'm not a huge fan of whole life. Whole life tends to be expensive and clunky, and you do get safe growth, but it's not productive. We're talking 3 to 4% per year. When you take money out of your stock market portfolio and you put it into an LIRP, the growth within that cash value is tax-free. And when you take it out the right way, it can be distributed tax-free. However, if you take money out of a portfolio that's earning, say, 7 or 8%, and you put it into a whole life policy that's earning only, say, 3 or 4%, that reduction in rate of return can neutralize all the benefit that justified that LIRP's existence to begin with, right? So, whole life is really off the table, and it's for more than just the fact that it's not very productive. There's other things that we can get into. There's also something called variable life, and variable life basically is you're passing your premiums through the insurance company into what are called sub-accounts, which are like mutual funds. So you're basically growing your money in stock market like accounts so you can get stock market rates of return. The problem is you can also get stock market type losses. Okay. And the thing that's interesting about LIRPs is how much insurance you're paying for in a given year is a function of your cash value. I say this in the book. Cash value plus the amount of life insurance you're paying for in any given year equals your death benefit. So for example, if your cash value is 0 and your death benefit is $500,000, you're paying for $500,000 of life insurance that very first year. If your cash value goes up to $250,000, your death benefit is $500,000. That means you're paying for $250,000 of life insurance that year. So as your cash value goes up, the amount of life insurance the IRS requires you to pay for actually goes down. The problem becomes in a VUL if you are in your 60s when the cost of insurance can tend to go up and get more and more expensive each year. You want the amount of insurance you're paying for as life goes along to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, if you get a 30% loss in the stock market, then what happens to your cash value? It plummets. And what happens to the amount of life insurance the IRS requires you to pay for in that year? It actually goes up. It goes up at a period in your life when you can least afford to have those higher expenses at an age in your life when the expense of the insurance is already very, very high to begin with. So that becomes a huge Achilles heel if you're using a VUL to accomplish what you hope to accomplish through an LIRP. Now, there's a middle ground here, which is what's called Index Universal Life. Now, Index Universal Life is much maligned on social media and elsewhere. And Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, they all talk about how they hate IUL. Well, one of the problems with IUL is people conflate scammy advisors, and there are a lot of scammy advisors out there, with scammy products. Just because an advisor is scammy and is using something in the wrong way doesn't make the product itself scammy. And the example I give is, I don't know if you've ever seen or heard about the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. Well, this guy was scamming people with stocks, right? He was an immoral investor. Well, just because that guy was scammy or sleazy doesn't by definition impugn all stock market investing. So you can't conflate Jordan Belfort's immoral behavior with the stock market itself being immoral. So the IUL becomes sort of this middle ground that can give you safe and productive growth. That was a long lead up to where we're going here, which is the IUL can give you safe and productive growth. What are we talking about when we mean productive? We're talking between 6 and 8% gross of fees over time. We're talking 5 to 7% net of fees over time. Okay, so we're not talking about the 3 to 4%. We're talking about whole life. We're not talking about 8 to 9 or even 10% in the VUL. We're talking about 6 to 8%. We're talking about a bond replacement. We're saying reach into your portfolio, potentially remove the bonds, replace it with IUL. you'll increase the return, lower the risk, lower the standard deviation of your entire portfolio, and experience a better outcome over time. So that's the productive part. Safe part is the growth in your IUL is linked to the upward movement of a stock market index, whatever that, typically like the S&P 500, whatever that index does in a given year, you get to keep up to a cap, call it 12%. So if the stock market does 20, you get to keep 12. If the stock market loses 20, they simply credit you a 0. So it's impossible to lose money in the stock market in this approach. So this is what we mean by safe and productive growth. Whole life doesn't qualify. It is safe because you can't lose money, but it's not productive. VUL doesn't qualify because it's productive, but it's not safe. And IUL is the one that marries those two concepts in what we call safe and productive growth. So
great answer. And it spurred a thought in my mind, and it's a little bit back to the basics, but why not term? Would you mind sharing that?
Well, term insurance is a great, I've got a lot of term insurance on my own life. I've got 7 kids, so I'm at the period in my life when I should have a lot of term insurance. I've got a truck ton of term insurance on myself. And so when you have a specific term in your life where you have a significant exposure, should you decease prematurely, that's a very appropriate use of term insurance, but term insurance doesn't accomplish a lot of the things that we're hoping to accomplish with the life insurance retirement plan. It doesn't have a cash value component. We'll talk about some applications for why you might want to have a cash value component. Most term insurance policies do not have the ability to advance the death benefit prior to death for the purpose of paying for long-term care. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So what you have with the IUL is insurance companies will give you your death benefit in advance of your death for the purpose of paying for long-term care. And should you die peaceful in your sleep 30 years from now, never having needed long-term care, someone's still getting the death benefit, probably your kids or your grandkids. So there isn't that sensation of having paid for something you hope you never have to use. And then we can get into some specific applications for why you would want to grow money within the cash value portion of the IUL, but it becomes effectively what feels like, it's not a Roth IRA, but it grows tax-free as if it were a Roth IRA, and you can grow that money without tax implications, take that money out without tax implications. There's no limits on how much you can put in. There's no income limitations. So it's just a big bucket of tax-free dollars that can be a very effective and compelling complement to what you're doing with all your other tax-free investments like Roth 401ks, Roth IRAs, Roth conversions, et cetera.
Yeah, and I guess I could have phrased that question a little bit better when I said why not term, because I have a lot of term insurance myself, but I also have a life insurance retirement plan. So the appropriate question probably should have been, why not term when you're for a life insurance retirement plan? And then you answered that very well. I appreciate that.
Folks, my upcoming book, The Guru Gap, How America's Financial Gurus Are Leading You Astray and How to Get Back on Track, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. Take the opportunity to order your copy today. Also, in the next 10 years, I'm looking to put 1 million Americans on the road to the 0% tax bracket. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement that shields you from the impact of higher taxes down the road, head on over to davidmcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the Power Zero network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.